Well, I've been out on the street for as long as I can remember. Main Street, to be precise. I'm sure you've gone past 100 times, but you've never actually taken any notice of me. I don't perform fancy tricks, and I don't play any instruments, and I don't suspend myself in midair, but I'm there, same place, same time, 24/7. And I stand guard as the advance party of the city's day shift reports for duty. So we start with Master Services, who's there at the crack of dawn, 5 a.m., and yeah, it's okay, because they have to do their job, because the street is a very dirty place. But 5 a.m. is a little early if you're living above the bench, you see. So the next people that come into the street are the joggers. Now, I'm there in Main Street, and suddenly I get a waft past of lycra-clad people running, trying to get their cardiovascular fix, because what happens is that they're going to go home and then sit in an office all day. So that's a bit boring, so they want to like pump it up and get some action going. So they do that. They run past just as the cafe staff arrive, ready for work, dressed in black. And I know they're cafe staff because they are dressed in black, and they're going to start serving coffee and tea to all the people who are about to come and have their breakfast. And there's so many at that time of the morning, you'd be surprised. The next people in the street are the dog walkers, and they only know each other because of their dogs, because they don't really have much to do with each other. But, hi, your dog is lovely, what's his name? Yeah, you get all that, and the conversations waft off, because there's a lady who lives above me who's called the Rouge, who's quite well known, actually. She seems to shout quite a lot at things when things go on, or it's a bit loud, or it's bothering her, because sometimes she can't even watch TV, it's so loud. So the next lot on the street are the breakfast crew. So you have some people who have been out all night on the night shift, and they just want a little coffee and a quick cig before they go to work. Well, that's who you're going to get. And there's also the ones who are going to work early who want a quick fix of a cigarette as well. So that kind of falls in with a coffee shop right opposite me that starts bringing out their tables and their chairs, and it's clunk, clunk, clunk. The only salvation of that is that there's a lady who works in this special cafe right opposite me who plays music, like really cool, chill-out tarifa music. So that's quite nice. It's quite soothing in the morning when all this is going on. There's quite a lot going on first thing in the morning. Then you get the blood testers. Now, this is a really important part of the local community. The people who have to dash to the health center to get their blood taken by 8 o'clock, because if you don't get your tickets, you're stuffed. You're there till 10:30, you're never going to get to work, and if you happen to be off sick, you've got to do it all before 9 o'clock, including having your blood taken and go and get the café and the churros later, because you don't want people to see you around after 9 because you're off sick. So you've got to take all these things into consideration. You get the commuters. The commuters come in all shapes and sizes. There's all sorts of people walking past the street. The only reason, this kind of falls in line with the Rouge opening her windows, her shutters that creak open in the morning, the smells wafting up of wet hair, of cigarettes, of perfume. Sometimes the most stinky perfume wafts up, and I can hear she's opening the shutters and she's whinging about how people smell in the morning. She does whinge quite a lot, the neighbor upstairs. Anyway, so the commuters, there's all sorts. There's the locals who have to talk to everybody. So 10 paces. Hi, ¿qué? ¿Cómo está? Yeah, venga, all right, everybody all right? They can't just say hello and goodbye. I mean, let's face it. Locals have to greet and talk to everyone. Otherwise, you're considered rude, and then you're labeled, and then that's a bit of a problem. Then you've got the Brits and the Northern Europeans who kind of walk to work, looking down, really straight, looking down. They don't want to talk to anyone. They have to do the job in hand, get to work, boom. They don't want to know. And then you get the Spanish who like to have safety in numbers. There's like always, never just one. There's like 3, 4, 5, and they all sit on the bench or wherever, and they're all together, all of them, and they all eat their voges from Ramsons together, and they all smoke their cigarettes together, and they stub the butts out all over me, butts everywhere. This is when I am grateful for Master Services, you see. Now, there's a lot of people who come to work on skateboards and scooters. They're quite cool because they're even dressed in the right gear. You know, to do that, to come to work, they look really cool. They must have their clothes in their bag, just like the secretaries, who are all dressed up, ready for a day at the office, for high-powered meetings with their heels in their handbag. Because let's face it, Main Street is impossible to walk in those heels, as I'll tell you later. This is the point when the Rouges are ready for school. So Mrs. Rouge comes out of the house, shouting at her children who are always slow, breakfast in hand, because there's never any time to have it at home. And the three of them walk to the car park to get the car to go to school. At this point, this is the worst bit for me. the delivery vehicles. They pollute the whole street. The stink is horrendous. And they only have a small window where they can offload everything in their truck. So that's what happens for a little while until the workers start waiting for the shops to open. So they sit everywhere and they smoke and they smoke. What a dirty habit. And they put the cigarettes out and the butts everywhere. And they put them out in the tree. There's a tree right beside me which is dying, but I'll tell you why it's dying. Not just because of the cigarettes butts, it's because of something else as well. But anyway, that comes a little later. So, the starving blood testers. Now, remember I told you they were running to get their blood taken? Well, actually, once they're there, right, they want to leave because they haven't eaten anything from the night before, probably at midnight, because you've got to have an empty stomach, because if you're having your blood taken, you can't eat anything or drink. So, of course, by this point, they're about to collapse. So they rush out of the ICC, and they just go wherever they can to get their churros and their coffee and their thing, and to meet their families and all that. And this falls in line with the desperate mothers. Now, I've never had children, but if you have, you know what it's like. It's a lonely experience having a child. Your husband is fed up of you, the baby crying all night. He's desperate to get to work, let's face it. And he wants to just go. So what, you're left on your own with a screaming kid, and you're thinking, I need to get out of here. So the mothers go and join the blood testers at the cafe, and they all sit together. And that's what Gibraltar life is all about. They all just get on with it. Now, one day we had real excitement because suddenly the whole street was evacuated. Police cordoned off the area. They put this blue and white tape all over me. And suddenly, they start shouting. Now, there was one up in the Rouge window, I know because I heard him. There was another one in the corner, all trying to negotiate with someone. I was thinking, what's going on? There was a man in the shop holding everybody in the shop at gunpoint. And I thought, oh my goodness, what's going on here? So eventually, thanks to some police negotiating, the man came out and he threw his gun like within a foot of me. And some policemen jumped on him and they arrested him. So everything was sorted out, thankfully. But what a charged afternoon. It was the most excitement I'd seen till I saw something going on the bin one night. And but that's not suitable for now anyway. The other thing that's quite interesting about where I am is the fact that a lot of tourists, Gibraltar's famous, lots of tourists come and visit us, but they like to stay in Marbella or Torremolinos or Fuengirola, and they come all-inclusive. And what happens with all-inclusive? They're paying for their lunch. So they don't want to come to Gib and go to a pub and sit down and have lunch and try something different. My God. No, they're going to eat their packed lunch on the bench. They're going to eat it, including their half bottle of wine, their 3-course meal, and their pudding. And then they're going to go off and haggle for booze and cigarettes and whatever else they want to buy, electronics maybe. So that's what the tourists do. I don't know how they do it, because the accordion man stands beside playing the same song on repeat, more time after time after time. I mean, the Rouge upstairs is fed up of the accordion man. She's asked him to move down the street and he won't go. So I think they're kind of stuck with it. Then you get the knight on the horseback, who looks really cool because he's on horseback and he's, doing his thing until somebody puts money in his pot. Then all hell breaks loose. Everybody starts to scream. The whole thing seems to be moving. And he makes this silly sound. And it's just so loud. It's just so annoying. Nearly as annoying as a suspended magician who just sits there in midair. And then, you know what it is? Everybody around is just trying to find out how on earth is he up there. So they all kind of sit around for hours just looking at this man thinking, how does he do it? How does he suspend himself? Eventually they give up and they leave, thankfully. Then there's lots of monkeys performing tricks on a scaffolding very nearby. Just as bad as the monkeys that I get on, sitting on me, taking photos for some sort of Rouge show called On Request that they keep putting people on, taking pictures of me and I don't know what. Anyway, she's not too bad, so we let her off. They say there's no rest for the wicked, and this is true. The evening shift starts with the exodus of workers. Now, this is a very different setting. The workers start to leave, the school kids start to leave, the shops shut, and everybody mopping their shops, pouring the dirty water into the tree. Hence why the tree is dead. So, I could have gone on. Thank you.